Hi, my name is Jared, and this is Horror Obsession. Today, I want to continue my in-depth look at iconic horror scenes by analyzing perhaps my favorite scene from Jaws. Steven Spielberg is one of the most accomplished and recognizable directors alive, and for good reason. His filmography is absolutely excellent, and I would put his movies up against any other director ever. With respect to Fincher, Tarantino, or Kubrick, Spielberg has managed to transcend genre in a way few directors ever have. He has a series of excellent dramas, including Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, Munich, and of course Schindler's List, but he also has a series of quality kids movies, including Hook, Adventures of Rin Tin Tin, and the iconic E.T. He is probably most famous for his adventure blockbusters, with the Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park series being among the best blockbusters ever made. Spielberg got his feature movie career started with a low-budget movie called Sugarland Express, and followed it right away with the amazing Jaws, still to this day one of the best monster movies of all time. There are so many things that make Jaws uniquely excellent, from the dynamic, inventive camera work of Spielberg, to the relatable but in-control performance of Roy Schneider as Chief Brody, to the hyper-masculine, everyone knows someone like this performance of Robert Shaw as Quint the Shark Hunter, to the shark itself and the way it is hidden for most of the film, which I'll get to in a little bit. I wanted to take a deep dive into one particular scene, which in this movie is the starting gun. In my slasher school videos, I explain that this means it is when the final girl becomes aware that the killings are taking place. And Brody is our de facto final girl, and he becomes sure there is murder afoot in a scene that takes place on a beach. To set the stage, a young couple was swimming on the same beach a few nights ago, but one of them did not return. Her hand was found washed up on the shore, and the initial reports indicate it was a shark attack. The town mayor quickly gets ahead of the story, insisting it was a boating accident, and having the coroner amend his report. A shark attack would be devastating, you see, as it is the 4th of July weekend soon, and this island town thrives on the tourist money from visitors wanting to swim. Brody doesn't buy it, and goes to the beach to make sure everything is okay, while everyone else, blissfully ignorant of the situation, try to enjoy their day. And so our scene begins.
Then get my raft and go back out in the water.
Let me see your fingers. Alex, Kintner, they're beginning to prune.
Just let me go out a little longer.
Just 10 more minutes.
Thanks.
Okay, Steven starts off showing a lady walking on the beach, and the camera follows her with a pan left. As she arrives at the water, a boy in red shorts walks into frame, and the camera starts to follow him instead. Steven is trying to disguise his intention here, since focusing too much on a single character would give away who is going to be eaten by the shark. The tension in this scene is primarily derived from the audience not knowing whether someone is going to be eaten, though the assumption is someone will be, so there is also the question of who will be eaten. Starting by showing this lady walking, then following the boy creates more ambiguity and increases the tension. The camera follows the boy until he plops down next to his mom, and the camera mirrors his movement with a quick pan down. The mother is now in focus, adding another potential victim. Using the camera to follow the characters also helps create a sense of empathy for them, as the viewer starts to feel they are behind the eyes of the character on screen. David Fincher uses this technique often, with small, minor camera adjustments to really put you into the shoes of that character, and Steven uses it excellently here as well. Next, the boy convinces his mother to let him go back out on the water. Okay, next.
It's just a big bother.
Well, they're bringing him.
Listen, all I want to know, I just want to know one simple thing. When do I get to become an islander?
Ellen, never. Never. You're not born here. You're not an island.
Maybe
That's
given-
it.
Okay, and the boy wanders through the crowded beach, and Steven expertly has him followed by a steady cam walk. I imagine coordinating the shot was a huge pain, as walking backward on sand without tripping over any of these people that get revealed would have taken some practice, but eventually Chief Brody is revealed. Once again, this helps create ambiguity since it now appears the function of the lady on the beach and the boy in red shorts was to establish Brody. The shot of Brody with his hand over his mouth, staring intently at the beach, is contrasted perfectly with the audio of his wife and the Islander mom talking. Brody is the only one who knows about the shark attack, and so he is on high alert, scanning the water and the people in it, while everyone else relaxes and has mundane conversations about ultimately pointless things, such as who technically qualifies as an Islander. This conversation does serve double purpose, as it also helps establish the feel of a real town in something called world building that so many lesser directors fail to utilize, which results in the locations, characters, and events feeling less real and therefore less impactful. Alright, so it's time to jump into Brody's perspective, so we get a shot from his POV of someone floating in the ocean. The dog runs by with a man in a yellow shirt, and the camera immediately picks them up and follows them. Another somewhat confusing thing for the viewer, as once again we are introduced to a new character and are unsure of their purpose in the scene. As he throws the stick, we see the dog chasing after it and a couple in the water, introducing even more potential victims. This repeated and deliberate use of the camera following characters to reveal new characters, who the camera then follows, is astounding filmmaking. Steven has established the looming threat of the shark with the horrific death of the swimming woman in the opening scene, and so the audience is biting their nails watching all of these people in and around the water, exactly how Chief Brody is. Alright, so next we see the boy in red shorts jump back into the water. Okay, next. Alright, so what have we got in this scene? We start with the dog swimming back to shore with the stick. We go back to the lady floating, and Steven holds the camera there for a few seconds. These minor details make all the difference, as too rapid of cuts and the audience doesn't internally process what seeing all these characters means. Keeping the editing brisk helps pacing, but too much can hurt tension. There is a balance there, and he holds just long enough to get the audience wondering if this is the moment Jaws makes an appearance, but then cuts back to the boy in red shorts. We then go back to the dog on shore, followed by the dog and his owner running, and once again the dog goes out to chase a stick. The entire sequence so far is only 73 seconds long, but puts in so much work in terms of creating tension and world building. Alright, let's keep going.
Don't bother until okay. Come right back.
Okay, finally we cut back to Brody, who has already been established, so this cut isn't as jarring. We see him sitting to the right of the frame and see that he is still intently watching the beach. Since the initial POV cut from Brody to the lady floating, there have been enough cuts it would be easy to forget we are supposed to be in Brody's perspective. So this medium full single does a beautiful job reminding the audience of that. Someone walks in front of the camera, and once they clear the frame, the camera has moved closer to Brody into a medium single. I love these hidden cuts since it creates the impression the beach is still very busy, with people bustling back and forth, but also allows Steven to jump the camera around to his heart's content. Another person walks by, and the camera moves to a medium close-up. Steven goes back to the floating lady, clearly indicating the audience is supposed to be behind Brody's eyes now. Another pedestrian hidden cut, and we see Brody back to a medium full single. And the intent of all these cuts back and forth is clear. We are paying attention to Brody and his thoughts now. Another hidden cut to the floating lady, with the camera suddenly at water level. This is the first time we get the camera from this particular angle in the entire scene, and it is coupled with the dark object moving towards her. The low angle causes the audience's brains to immediately process that something new is happening. And of course, since we are expecting a shark, this means we subsequently assume the object is the shark. Brody is thinking the same thing, and the camera goes back to him in a medium full single, and to accentuate that he wonders if it is the shark, he is now leaning forward towards the camera. The synchronicity of him wondering if it's a shark, and the audience wondering if it's a shark, is created by the original low angle on the water and pulls you completely into the scene. Nice work, Steven. Next, there's a cut back to the water where Brody and the audience realize it is an old man. Then another hidden cut with someone in front of the camera, back to Brody realizing it was all nothing. Brody relaxes and looks around a little. Perhaps he's just being paranoid. Okay, next.
Hey, Marty, I know you got a lot of problems downtown, but I've got a couple of problems with the house I wish you could take care of.
One, I've got some cats parking in front of the house. I can't get down to the office, and that garbage truck next to the office has got to be moved.
So what I need is a red zone. It's a simple thing you can take care of. You've done it before.
Would you come here a minute, please?
Scooch.
Okay, a man comes up to Brody to talk to him, but Brody's eyes stay fixed on the water. It is clear what his priority is, but to make it extra clear, Steven shows Brody leaning to see over the man's shoulder. The dual focus shot of the woman in the water and the man's face is a bit distracting, but on purpose. Brody is distracted from his responsibility of watching the water, and so are we. Once the girl starts screaming, Brody's attention goes fully to the water, and so the audio of the man talking fades into the background. Brody's not paying attention to him anymore, and neither are we. Brody stands up suddenly, and a quick cut back to his perspective before he realizes it is the couple we saw earlier playing around. Now that the perceived danger is over, we go back to the familiar medium close-up with Brody on the right and the man on the left. The camera angle shift is a return to normalcy, just as the tension in the scene was built and then released. Alright, almost there, the home stretch.
Are you okay?
Everything's fine. Yeah, fine.
Listen, if the kids go in the water is worrying you,
No.
and they can play out here on the beach.
All right, let him go.
Alright, not too much in this scene, but let's talk about it. Brody's wife comes over to see if he is okay with the kids playing in the water, and since he has been red-herringed twice already, Brody agrees the kids should be able to play. A quick cut to the kids swimming into the ocean, then a cut back to Brody with the old man coming up to chat. Let's keep going.
It's cold. We know all about you, Chief. You don't go in the water at all, do you?
It's some bad hat, Harry.
Chief Brody, you are uptight. Yes. Come on. That's it.
Okay, Steven then cuts to an OTS, aka over the shoulder, shot of Brody with the old man's center frame, clearly the focus of attention, but the kids are still in the left of the frame, only slightly pulling Brody's attention away. He makes fun of the man's hat so it'll go away, and scoots his chair so we can see the beach better. Steven then quickly cuts to some kids playing to help add to the idea that the beach is now safe, followed by the wife giving Brody a back massage to try and get him to relax and forget about the shark. Steven goes back to the water angle, with all the kids now in frame. This shot reminds us of the danger in the water and again puts the audience on edge. He does a rapid cut sequence of kids playing and splashing, and here we are. Let's see what happens next.
Oh, do you know the Muffin Man?
Pippet! Pippet! Pippet!
The Muffin
Pippet! Come on, Pippet! Pippet!
Okay, let's talk about the scene. So Steven keeps the scene moving with the little boy building a dubious sandcastle, and suddenly the man in the yellow shirt cannot find his dog. The insert shot, aka a shot with only an object in frame, instantly causes the audience to go, "Oh shit," and realize the dog got eaten by the shark. Now that the suspense of whether the shark is there or not has been broken, Steven cuts to a POV shot of the shark under the water. I wanted to stop and talk about this for a second, as Spielberg somewhat notoriously had trouble with the animatronic shark, and it wouldn't really work for swimming or most of what they wanted to use it for. So instead, Spielberg worked around it and ended up shooting first-person POV shots from under the water to imply the shark was swimming around, which ends up being much scarier than actually showing the shark, as the imagination of the audience is allowed to take over. Okay, so the POV of the shark swims right up to the boy in red shorts, and as it inches closer and closer, the audience is forced to confront the horrible truth. This is really happening. It's the kid. You know what happens next, but let's check it out. Oof, that's some intense stuff. Let's talk about Steven's directorial choices here. The shot from outside the water, back to the waterline angle established earlier, shows some massive thing attacking the boy, and a quick cut back to land as people notice what's happening. The cut back to the water angle shows probably the most horrifying shot in all of Jaws, and a major reason why this movie caused entire generations to be afraid of the water, as the blood is exploding out of the ocean like a vortex. Steven goes to a shot under the water, showing the boy being pulled under and unable to scream, adding to the terror and making the audience really empathize with the suffering and visceral fear of the boy. The camera cuts back to Brody, and Steven does a vertigo shot, so called because Hitchcock used it to demonstrate a character's vertigo in the movie Vertigo. This is also sometimes called a dolly zoom, because the camera dollies in one direction while zooming in the other. In this case, the camera dollies toward Brody while zooming out, which keeps him in focus but creates the appearance of the background moving. Alright, how does Steven wrap up the scene? Let's find out. Okay, there are some rapid cuts back and forth between the kids in the water and their parents desperately trying to get them out, including many new camera angles from in front or behind of the characters. And since these angles have never been established, the audience is a bit disoriented by them. The perfect emotion, since that is what everyone in the movie is feeling. The music slows down, and the camera stops jumping around and settles on a shot with the land and safety on the right, and the water and danger on the left. Framing the shot this way is perfect, as it matches the movement of the characters across the middle of the frame, indicating safe or not safe. We need a stable angle to indicate the danger has passed, and this one is perfect. So how does a legendary director end perhaps their most impactful scene? Let's find out. Once again, masterful work by Steven. Let's talk about it. As the danger settles down, one mother is left tragically alone, and the camera follows her as she works her way through the crowd, to the front, and to the realization that it is her child who is missing. The scene ends with a devastating cut to the floaty, surrounded by bloody water and torn to shreds, a symbol of a lost life, a mother's grief, and the brutal power of the shark all at once. Steven lets the camera hold for the perfect amount of time, and the audience has no escape from the tragedy of a child's brutal murder. Alright, and that's my favorite scene from Jaws. Steven builds tension masterfully, disguising his intent of killing the boy in red shorts by jumping the camera around from character to character. The movement of the camera is motivated by moving new characters into frame, causing the audience to be unsure of who to focus on and preventing us from knowing for sure who gets killed. The hidden cuts by having people walk in front of the camera work well to cause the beach to feel busy without having to set up huge wide shots of the whole crowd. Steven uses a POV shot of the shark instead of showing it swimming, a lucky accident that ends up saving the film and making it so iconic. He even uses the vertigo dolly zoom technique to emphasize Brody's realization that he was right about the shark, and ends the scene in a tidy 4 minutes and 37 seconds. a true masterclass in filmmaking. Are there any scenes you want me to break down next? Let me know in the comments, otherwise I'll just choose another of my favorites. And if you made it this far into the video, you have truly mastered the art of horror obsession.